As a newer builder, I've picked up a couple things over the last few weeks as I've been trying to figure out how to build properly. Some of these range from like actual building related things, and some of them are just some basic things, mechanics for the game, like hotkeys, commands, things like that. In this video, I'm going to give you a rundown of everything I've learned so far. At the end of the video, I'm going to tell you guys what is the biggest challenge I have done that I think has helped so much with upping my building game in The Sims. One thing I want everybody to know, because I've had a lot of people ask me about this on my streams, is how I get infinite money. Besides using cheats like Motherload and stuff to just up your Sims money, you can literally just go to manage worlds, go to world select, pick where you want to build, find the lot you want to build on, and then just press this little build icon down in the right corner, and then boom, look at that, infinite money. You can build to your heart's content. Will your sim be able to afford this? Probably not, depending how crazy you go, but you can literally just cheat your Sims money. I'm not judging. The first thing you should familiarize yourself with is hotkeys. This will not only make building so much easier, it'll also speed up the process and allow you to access things that like maybe you didn't even know existed. So let's go over some basic hotkeys first. The first hotkey, and again, a lot of these are like things that aren't like a big deal. They'll just help you out a little bit. I think they're important to know just because these little things save you just a couple clicks. It saves you from like moving your cursor around on the screen all willy-nilly. You just have to press one button on your keyboard and you'll like instantly be there basically, or instantly be able to access this tool. So you'll see I'm in buy mode right now. I have objects down there. This is buy mode. If I want to go to build mode, if I press B on my keyboard, you see how that swapped over, and now I am building walls. Does it save me a lot of time? Maybe like half a second, but I promise that adds up, because if I'm here and I'm placing a ton of stuff and I'm like, oh, you know what? A half wall would look good here. Instead of me clicking back on like the builds icon and then going to grab my tool again and then building, I can literally just go from here, B, and I've got the tool out already. Ready to go. You can use G to toggle your grid on and off. Personally, while I'm building walls and stuff, usually I'll like to have the grid on. Usually when I'm decorating, like this can sometimes get like to be a little bit too much to look at if I'm placing a bunch of stuff all around and I just have the grid under there. Sometimes it just hurts my eyes, if I'm being honest. So it could just be a lot easier just to toggle that off. This way you get a clear view of what it's actually going to look like. Next up is your eyedropper tool. Usually you could go up here, you could click right here where it says eyedropper, I could copy it, and then I could place as many of these as I want. But do you see how long that takes me to go up here and click and place and click and place again and again and again? It's far too much work. If you just want to do this quickly, E on your keyboard, eyedropper is now equipped. Look at that. Next up, if you're on another tool, say we're on the sledgehammer tool, or we're on the eyedropper tool, or on the swatch tool. If I want to switch back to my hand tool, which is that basic tool that you would use to move things around, all you have to do is press H and boom, I can move things again. Next up is the kill hotkey. It's just your K key and it will automatically equip your sledgehammer. But I could just press K and boom, there is my sledgehammer and I can tear things down. Also, it literally says the hotkeys for all of these when you hover over them. You see the hand tool H, eyedropper E. We haven't got to the design tool yet. That's a spoiler, but it's R. Next up, you can use L to change the time of day. So you might see that we have this little sun in the top right corner of our little bar that we have up here. If you click on this, it'll change evening, night, morning, afternoon. I typically build in afternoon just because I think it's the most neutral lighting. Some of the lots have very odd lighting, so just be careful. Some of it's very unevenly lit. You'll get weird shadows depending on what lot you build on. You just kind of got to pay attention or just deal with it. The reason this could come in handy, you could see like these aren't really ideal to build in morning or evening or night. They're kind of too dark to build in. Afternoon is definitely the more brighter one. It's easier to really see everything on the entire lot. The reason that this could come in handy is if you had something like this, like a little outdoor patio area that you're trying to decorate. It's hard to kind of decorate it when you don't know what the lighting's gonna be like, because sure, it looks like this during the daytime, but if you wanted to put some of these lights up, you wouldn't really be able to see how well lit the area is unless you made it nighttime. R will enable your recolor tool. This way you can switch between swatches easily. So if I press on the R here, you'll see it switches over to my swatch tool, and I can just click on this and easily go in between. To easily and more safely delete some walls, you can hold the control key while using the wall tool. I built this real quick so I can show you. So I have the wall tool. You can see that down here. I am not using anything special. If I were to hold control while I use this, I can delete the walls. Sometimes when you use the sledgehammer, if you go to delete something, sometimes it'll like click onto other walls that you don't want it to highlight, and then you end up like tearing holes in your build. So it's just much easier, at least I find it to be much easier, to just simply hold control down and basically highlight the wall. I just find this to be a bit more controllable, whereas the sledgehammer can be a little finicky, and I don't like to mess with it because I just end up getting frustrated. Another thing you can do when you have the wall tool equipped, instead of going down here and switching over to the room tool to be able to build a room, you can just stick with the wall tool. So single wall, you see, if I hold down shift, I suddenly can build a room without switching over to the room tool. Still just on the wall tool. Next hotkey on the list, rotation. Using the U key will let you rotate your entire build. Most of these hotkeys are things you can activate just by going up here. Next up is flooring, and I can press Control F, and that is going to give me these quarter tiles. They're like little triangles, and I could place this here. And you see how that's just a bit less harsh and you get kind of like a nicer shape. People also create patterns this way. They've made some like really cute tile designs and things like that. For example, here's a good one. It's kind of hard to see because they have the grid on, but they just mixed like some hardwood and made like a cute little design. And look how nice that looks. It adds a little more, it's a little bit more detail. You may have noticed something else that I did while I was showing you that was that I switched the direction that my flooring was facing. So if you see now, it's facing like a vertical. You can change this by using the arrow keys or the period and comma keys, just like that. I personally like for it to face horizontal over this way. I don't know why. This feels threatening to me. It feels like it's leading me somewhere. If I was to walk through a door right here and the flooring was all facing that way, I would feel threatened. I personally just feel like this looks cozier. Don't ask. I have no explanation. I've had bangs for literally like 2 weeks and I feel like they're already too long. Another one, and this isn't really one I use, but you can use the period key to rotate your items. Typically, I would just rotate with the mouse. While holding an object, you can use the delete key to automatically sell it. Instead of dragging it all the way down here to the sell box, I could just press delete. It makes it much faster. Similarly, you can use the backspace key to move an object to your household inventory. One of my absolute favorite hotkeys of all time, T. What does T do, you may ask? T gives you an automatic top-down view. So you get this bird's eye view, which is so much easier when you're decorating, especially if you're like alt placing objects. It just be like really difficult kind of to figure out where you want it to go when you're at this kind of level, like eye level with it. One of the other most important hotkeys that you're going to use is your bracket keys. These can be used to size up and size down when you have bb.moveobjects on, which we'll talk about later. Another important hotkey that you use is your 9 and 0. 9 and 0 keys will allow you to raise objects and lower. Next up, let's move on to our commands. The number one command that you should absolutely always use, because it's gonna make your builds look so much better, it's gonna make your life easier, it's gonna add so much detail, and you've probably seen people do it and gone, oh my god, how do they do that if you're new to building? Control-Shift-C to open up this little console chat box in your top left corner. You're going to type in bb.moveobjects. When bb.moveobjects is off, you'll notice things kind of snap to the grid. However, when it's on, I can alt place things, which means I can freely place this. Or let's say I had an end table next to this and I wanted to put maybe a lamp and some books on there. So that's going to snap to a spot. And then if I want to throw this stack of books, I could put it there. However, if I don't like the placement, what I can do, drag this out of the way and put it maybe more towards the center, and then with this lamp put it like right there, and then I can move this back, and I can even alt place this so I could put it a bit closer to the furniture. Also, something that bb.moveobjects does is it lets you intersect things, which might seem like something that doesn't come in handy, but I promise it does. I promise there's times where you are going to want to put things that are intersecting. Basically, this shelf is going to be your lifesaver. This is a major tip that I saw on TikTok one day and I've used it ever since. See, I want to put this picture somewhere, but it's not slotting to anything on this bookshelf. This is where this is going to come in handy. This is because I have all the spots filled in here and there's nowhere else that I could put it. There's other problems you could run into with this, like maybe something just doesn't have any slots on it and you want to place something there. So what I could do is I can take this magic little shelf and I can bring it to the height that I want this object to sit at. So for example, I want to put this picture frame next to these books here. So I'm just at that as close to the height of this shelf as I can. That's probably pretty close. Then I can place this picture frame onto this shelf. Then I'll be able to grab the picture frame and drag it over where I want it to go. And boom, there you go. Now use this shelf to place things on nicer shelves. Another command that might help you out quite a bit with your building is bb.showHidden. When you use this one, there's actually another command that you're most likely going to want to use with it. Block even more stuff for you. Back into your control panel, you're going to type bb.showHiddenObjects. Then you're going to type in bb.showLiveEditObjects. Now I can go to the search bar over here and I can type in debug. And I have all of these items unlocked. This is where people get cars to put on their buildings. They're not functional, obviously, but people use them for decorations a lot. Mainly what I use debug for is actually the landscaping. If you see here, we have a ton of landscaping that is 0 simoleons. So you can landscape houses for free. I usually do this when I'm building a starter home for the gallery because you have to keep it under a certain amount when you're doing a starter home. Another thing you might notice while you're building is that some objects are going to be locked. They're not locked for me because I'm playing in a build that doesn't have a live sim assigned to it. But if you are building specifically for your sim on their own lot, these things are going to be locked unless your sim has unlocked it. You can see here it says this piano is unlocked at level 7 of the entertainer career while in the music branch. So usually you would not be able to get this unless your sim reached level 7 of the entertainer career. But if you wanted to unlock it and put it there, you could do Control-Shift-C to open up your console chat and type in bb.ignoreGameplayUnlocks entitlement. I always say this wrong like every single time and my brain always reads it as ignore gameplay unlock sentiment. That's not the word. That's what I always say when people ask me how I do this when I'm streaming and watching me build. I always say ignore gameplay unlock sentiment. Someone in chat is like, Ajiri, try again. Cheat is on. These will all be unlocked for you. Now here are my biggest tips for building that I have learned so far. Number 1 is to use the Sims 3 camera, not the Sims 4 camera. I used to build and play with the Sims 4 camera because it's all I knew. Why did I do that to myself? Sims 3 camera is so much easier to use. It's so much more functional. It's much, much better to build with as well. To change over your camera type, go right up here to the right-hand corner where it says camera controls. And you can click there and you're probably going to be on this one, the Sims 4 camera, which is just a mess. I can't believe I used to do this. I don't even know how to use it anymore now that I'm using. That should be a challenge. I should do a challenge video where I have to build using the Sims 4 camera. I think I would cry. You'll also see free camera, which we'll talk about in a minute, Sims 3 camera, the best one, and top-down view, which I taught you how to do using the T hotkey. Click on your Sims 3 camera, and this is also going to allow you to do so many more things. With bb.moveobjects on and using the Sims 3 camera, I can hold Alt to rotate an object freely. Usually when you're rotating something, it kind of clicks to different angles, but this way I can change things to where I want them to be. I usually like to add in, maybe not so much like that. Next up is something I did not know until someone in chat was like, why don't you just do this? And I was like, what do you mean? What do you mean? Why don't I just do this? It really changed my life. So for example, you could be building like a mid-century modern kind of home, and they tend to have like these interesting roofs that are like not 100% even. Like they'll be like this or something, just a little bit off, or they'll even face different directions or something. For some reason, sometimes they don't line up. This one lines up fine, but just for the sake of showing you, I'm going to pretend they don't line up fine. If they're not lining up and they won't click into the right spot, you can hold Alt while building a roof and move it freely. And now look, they line up and it's perfect. I didn't know. Life changing. Another thing for roofs that might help you is to combine different roof types. So I'm just building this little house here just so I can show you exactly what I mean. This house, you might be like, oh my God, how do you roof that? Believe me, Roofing is hard in The Sims. I am just starting to get a hang of it. So don't beat yourself up if you really struggle with roofing. It is honestly one of the hardest things. It's like right up there with stairs. Stairs are still really tough for me. Trying to like turn them, stuff like that. I'm sorry, no tips for stairs in this video. I can't do them. But I could take roof types. So let's say I wanted to put this one here. Then maybe over here I want to do one of these, but I don't want it to face the same way. I'll put it over there. This way I'm going to do here. Drag that in. Look at that. That looks good already. Now, what I mean by different roof types, obviously these 3 roofs that I have on the house here were all the same roof type. They're all this gabled roof. However, for this little patio area that I want to make here, I'm obviously going to need something a little different. And then I have this whole area, which is inside. It kind of sticks out farther than my top story does, which is a problem because what am I supposed to do there for a roof? I have a couple options here depending on how you want it to look and also depending on how buggy The Sims wants to be that day. Sometimes this will not work. It'll start clipping into like the top story. But something you could do is just that. I used this hipped roof, just this like triangle shaped roof. I sized it to what I wanted it to be and just dragged it through, and then I dragged the eaves out. You can drag the eaves out by just going like this. If I wanted to do over here, over my patio, I could do the same thing. I'm going to take half hipped roof. And again, this is just my personal preference. I'll change this up. This way I still get that like corner bit and it'll kind of wrap around the house. But then I could take this again, put it here, and then rotate it. And look at that. Basically, there's a lot of different ways you can mess around with the roofing. I am still learning how to roof. I would not call myself a roofing professional by any means, but these are definitely some things that have helped me get a little bit better at it. Once you've picked out your siding and stuff for your house and you want to add a little bit more detail, you can go into your columns and you can just place these on the corners and it just adds like a little more dimension. We have like swatches that have something similar to it, like these. You can see that they kind of have like a black line on the corner. They don't work. See that? How it didn't show up on this side, but it showed up on that side. We have a couple different swatches that are like that and they work about 5% of the time. And also something else you can do that will help you out here is you can just hold shift while you're placing an object if you want more than one bit. Instead of me like going and constantly having to like grab another column or something like that, if I place this on this corner, you see like it's gone now. I could duplicate it here, or when I place it, I could just hold shift and it automatically gives me another one. This also helps a lot with landscaping. If you're planning to place a lot of the same plants somewhere, instead of like individually going here, instead, I could just go like this. Place as many as I want. Another thing, this is also something I learned from Little Sims, is to do the windows on the front, then the back, and then kind of save the side windows for when you're doing the inside of the build. When you look at a house from the front, those windows tend to be a little more symmetrical. They look a whole lot better because that's like the important part of the house, right? That's what's gonna look nice, is how the windows look from the front. Whereas from the back, they matter a little bit, not as much as how it looks from the front. So the back can be a little bit wonky, whereas the front kind of has to be more appealing. And then the side, they can be just an absolute mess 90% of the time. I like to try and keep them still organized, but it doesn't really matter how side windows look from the outside of a house. They matter more how they function inside of a house. So save the windows for the sides when you're actually doing the floor plan and designing. Just focus on the front and maybe the back windows until you're really ready. Another thing that can help add a lot of detail and dimension and a little bit of realism to your builds is mixing and matching different siding types. This can be helpful inside too, accent walls and things like that, making all the rooms slightly different but still cohesive. However, for outside, it could just add a lot. To break up some of this pink, let's say I grabbed maybe some stone or some brick, and you could put it like on just a piece of the house just to kind of add a little detailing. For example, in a recent build, I used like these blue shingles as well as using a blue siding. If this house isn't looking right while you're staring at it for so long, does it possibly need something to just like break up just the solid color a little bit? Like personally, I think this build looks just fine just like this. However, there's other builds I've done, maybe they've been a little bit of a different shape, maybe they've just been bigger, and it just like looks too plain when you look at it. Also, another thing I want to bring in while I'm touching on that subject is sometimes you're looking at the outside of a house and you're like, something is wrong, I just don't know what it is, and I just hate this build. Nothing looks right. It just looks so boring. It looks so bland. 99% of the time, it's landscaping. You haven't gotten to the landscaping yet. When you add in the landscaping, I promise your build is going to look so much different. Another tip I want to show you is making a built-in shower with platforms. This is one of my favorite things to do. You can only really do it if you have like a select pack. Discover University and with Snowy Escape, I'm not sure any others, but they have like a separate shower head. So it doesn't come with like a tub or like a whole shower area. So you can kind of build your own shower with it. Let's head inside. I go grab my platform tool and I could build a shower by building a little platform here. Now it's probably going to mess with your walls a little bit. Don't worry, you could just rebuild it. So now you see I have this raised area. I don't want it to be raised. I want it to be sunken down. So if I click on it, you'll see this little like dialogue box kind of pops up. There's these two arrows that say raise platform or lower platform. I'm going to click lower twice. Now I could take my shower head from Discover University and I could throw that onto there. Just fix my wall so it doesn't look so weird. Totally up to you what you use. I usually use that. Then I might change like the platform trim to something that I like better. Usually a thin one is going to work because if you use one of these thick ones, like you kind of see it after the shower disappears. So definitely go with one of these thin ones. Typically I'll grab like a tiled wall and just fill in here, and then I would paint the rest of the bathroom different, but this just so it looks a little bit more like a shower that's meant to be there. And then after that, you could do like a half wall here if you would like to, like that. Instead of that, there's like this little divider. There's different ones. There's these ones from Snowy Escape, which I think are very shower like. There's quite a few different swatches for these. Occasionally I've actually been using this and kind of just like clipping it into here and maybe raising it up like one. Let's get it nice and close to the edge. And then I like how this looks. Definitely for modern builds, I've been liking this one. With platforms, you can also make some like stairs or patios, things like that. You've probably seen people do this where they build a platform and then they have like a raised section and they have like stairs going up to something. It's actually super simple and I overcomplicated it for myself. All you have to do to get this kind of thing going, or I like to do patios that would come out like the back of a house. So they have like a little bit of a wraparound, something like that. And then maybe there's like a raised section back here and maybe even that raised section goes this way a bit. All you have to do, it's that simple. Build your platform, build another one, build another one, build another one, and just keep going. And look at that, I actually accidentally just made a staircase, not even trying. In the beginning of the video, I mentioned that I have been working on a project that has definitely been a challenge, and it has challenged me to the point that I think like it's making me a much better builder. This is inspired by something I saw Lil Simsy do. Lil Simsy built a whole neighborhood on one lot, and then with the for rent pack, you'd actually be able to rent out each house so it would be separate households. And I think this has helped me so much is because I've had to design multiple unique houses, but that still have something cohesive about them, so they all look like they would actually be in the same neighborhood. This is still a work in progress. This is the last house I was working on my stream. So this was the first house I built. It's probably my least favorite of all of them, just because I think you can kind of tell this is when I was pretty new to building still. I'm still new to building, but this isn't my favorite house. I would definitely, even looking at it now, I can see so many things I would change. However, I'm tempted to just keep it this way because I've been working on this lot for quite a while at this point. It kind of shows the progression just here in what I've learned from building each of these houses. So this was the first house. This is the second house I built. So you can see here I mix and match with some brick on the chimney. I have some yellow siding and then I have some yellow shingles on some pieces. I've got to be honest, I'm quite proud of this house. Now, the third house I built was this one. I'm not crazy about this one. It's definitely very suburban. It's giving McMansion, but not quite. This is the third house I built. And then this is the latest house I built. I really like this house. I don't usually like using beige. I'm not really a fan. I like to use colors. I like to use green, pinks, blues, all kinds of stuff. Again, I think you can see the progress from me building this very basic, just basically a rectangle of a house to building this. I feel like that's some decent progress on my end. I think it's my favorite here. I recommend for everybody to do this, honestly. Even if you don't have the for rent pack, I think this is something everyone should do just to test their abilities. And like the challenge of putting them all on one lot and making them all look like they actually belong in the same place base. I definitely think it's worth it if you are struggling with building things that maybe go outside of your comfort zone. Anyway, let me know what you guys think. If there's anything else that you have questions about that I might maybe no, please let me know down in the comments. Let me know your thoughts on what I showed you today and any of the builds that I showed you. I'm interested to see if it's just me being way overconfident that I think between these 5 builds you can watch my progress, but let me know if you think they slowly got better too. I'll see you guys in the next one. Have a wonderful day, everybody. Stay happy, stay healthy. Bye bye. I've gotten like addicted to landscaping in The Sims, I feel like. I haven't been able to stop, and I think you can also see that in these builds, is why does the first one have nothing and the other one literally looks like a whole botanical garden?